Good Saturday morning to you. Welcome back to Scale Auto Guys Workbench. Today we're working on this AMT 1966 Ford Fairlane 427. And this one looks like it's going to be a very sweet build. It doesn't say on the box that it's a 2-in-1 or anything like that. But I'm looking at it as it's a possible. You can build it just straight stock, or you can put all of the decals on it for racing. It does come with the 427 engine, redline tires. The hood scoop is not optional. The scoop has to be attached to the hood, and I'll show you that in a little bit, but it's going to be difficult to build this as like a sleeper stock or something in that neighborhood. It doesn't give a parts count on the box, but this is a 2022 release of this particular kit. So let's take a look at what you get. Now, being an AMT, the body is pretty straight, but there is some cleanup that's going to be needed, and that's typical of an AMT kit. Here's your chassis, and again, that needs cleanup too. It's not a big deal, but I just thought I'd point it out to you that you're going to have to do that kind of stuff. It is kind of neat to have it detailed like that. You don't have to do a whole lot of assembly on the suspension, especially the front. It's all molded in. It is a little bit different color plastic though from the body. I don't know if you can see that contrast in the camera there, but the chassis is a little bit on the yellow side. Not a big deal, again, not a big deal, because you're going to end up painting it anyway. Let's be honest. Here's your hood scoop and wheels. They only give you one option for the wheels. It's these stock Steelies. They can be painted up nice. It does give you the chrome hubcaps like it's depicted on the box there. And I'll show you those in just a second. Separate dual exhaust system. I like this because it's easy to detail paint and attach to the chassis. You don't have to try to paint in the exhaust on the chassis. I just loathe that. I've never liked doing that. It never looks right for whatever reason. Now on this next tree, here's all your engine components. That is a one-piece engine block. Usually these are two-piece, but this one here is molded in one piece. And it's nice that they have the holes there for the pistons, so if you were going to do a diorama and you have the engine either in the car or out of the car in a torn down mode, like you're in the middle of rebuilding it, it's nice that it has the piston holes there. And the lifter valley has the lifters and push rods in there too, so that's kind of neat. Something else you don't normally see is the lower radiator hose attached to the water pump. That's kind of cool. And something else that it took me a second to figure out what it was. I actually had to open up the instruction sheet to look at this particular part, number 52. I was like, what is this strange thing? Is this some kind of a heater hose, or what is this? This is actually shift linkage that goes to the transmission, and there's the two little holes that it attaches to. I thought that was very unique. I've never seen anything quite like that on any other kit, so I thought that was really cool. On your next parts tree, it's all your interior parts, and here's why I'm saying that you can't do just a stock hood. it's got the molded in, or should I say molded out, hole in the hood and the indentation for that scoop. So you can't build this as like a sleeper stock unless you change out the hood. And then all your interior parts. Every tree has flash on it. The parts have flash. So that tells me that this is an older mold words. And I mean, it still came out pretty clear, but there is going to be a bit of cleanup involved. Now this tree here has your inner fender wells and radiator support, firewall, and your suspension parts. It even comes with a separate washer bag here, washer fluid bag. So that's kind of cool. Transmission cross member. The dash is kind of plain, but then again, in 1966, this car was built for racing. It wasn't built for, you know, luxury, blah blah blah. So they didn't do a whole lot with the interiors on these cars because they knew guys were going to go out and run them down the racetrack. Next up, you get a single metal axle. You get 4 hollow tires, standard bias ply tread, red line on one side, and the other side is just a plain black wall, no sponsors on the tires. I was thinking about maybe doing slicks on the back of this, but I couldn't find the set that I had saved. I've looked all over for those and I can't find them, so I may have to just go with the red lines. Here's your chrome tree, and it's super shiny. That's okay. For chrome lovers, this is great. Now I do like the fact, let me spin this over so you can see it. Right here are the 427 badges that you attach to the front fenders. And there is a corresponding decal that goes with that too. And let me show you that here in a second. But first, here's your front and rear windows and side windows and the clear red taillights. Alright, on to the decal sheet. Now this gives you everything that you need to turn this into a race car. It gives you all your Fairlane 500 logos, your Ford logos, words again. Now on the 73 Ford Bronco, I'm sorry, I got lost there for a second. In the 73 Ford Bronco video, when I did that build, the FORD were separate letters. I don't know if you can see that in the camera or not, but that is a one-piece decal with the Ford letters on it that go across the front of the hood and the trunk lid. Gives you 3 different states' license plates: California, Michigan, and Georgia. I'm not exactly sure what this is supposed to be, like maybe I don't know, a window sheet or I don't know what that is. We'll figure it out. But anyway, got a whole bunch of sponsor logos on here, so whatever you don't use on this one, you'll have extras for another build. And then you have the big Ford logos go in the middle of the door. Okay, well, that is about, oh, wait, no, it's not about it. Then you have the gigantic direction sheet with big pictures. I like the big pictures because These tired old eyes just have trouble looking at the small stuff. All right. Well, there you have it. The 66 Fairlane 427. I'm thinking about a color that I want to do. I've had this color for a while, and I've been trying to figure out a kit build that would work well with this paint, and this is what I'm going to try. Now, this is a craft paint. I got this over at Hobby Lobby. As you can see, it's a white metallic, so that means it's like a pearl. Let me see if... No, it's sealed. But it's hard to see through the bottle on the camera. But that is a pearl white paint. So I am thinking about that for the color of this car. It's not quite a Wimbledon white because it's a pearl, but I think the pearl would make this car pop. And I'm thinking about going with a black on black interior. I think that would look good. I did a little bit of research, photos, and I came up with a couple of different cars I liked. One of them had like a navy blue interior, which I thought looked good. And a lot of them, most of them, had black on black. So I'm thinking I might go with the black on black, but I may change my mind and go with the navy blue later on. We'll have to wait and see. So let's get a little cleanup done, some sub-assemblies done, and head on over to the paint booth and start, that is paint booth. I'm struggling today. I'm tired. Anyway, head on over there, lay down some primer, and maybe some top coat, and we'll get to building on this. Stay tuned. Alright fellas, I skipped ahead a little bit like I usually do. Got the engine ready to go in the car. What I like about this engine, this is pretty well detailed. I really like that they added the shift linkage to the transmission. That's really cool. But it's ready to go in, and now I'm starting to work on the suspension parts. You can see in the background there, let me tilt the camera up just a touch. There we go. I've got the interior parts painted. They're not quite ready to go together yet, but I'm working on it. The next step here, I'm going to start working on the front suspension and the rear suspension, exhaust system, that kind of stuff, work on the chassis. So let's get started. Alright fellas, I've got the front suspension all totally done. I've got the rear suspension done, sort of. I got the engine installed, and it's a tight fit, but if you wiggle it enough, it'll go in. With this rear suspension, I suggest you have at least 6 clamps. Otherwise it will fight you. Once I got everything in place, if I push down here, this one would pop off, you know, and vice versa. They kept moving. I'd push in one spot, get it in its place, and another spot would pop loose. The only way I could get this to go totally together is the 6 clamps. So if you have these clamps, if you have clothespin type clamps, whatever type of clamp you have, it will work, but you will need it. So there's the suspension, front and rear. It's all set to go. and I am not sure. I think the interior is the next step, so let's get on that. Alright fellas, I was incorrect. The next step is continuing on with the engine compartment. The nice thing about the way this is set up is that the firewall and the radiator support wall, both of them have grooves to where these fender wells lock in. So as long as you make sure that you lock them in, that'll be squared up and it'll be good to go. So we got the horns, the master cylinder, the upper radiator hose, the battery, and the coolant recovery bag that needs to go in here, and then we're done with this step, and then it's on to the interior. So let's get started on getting the rest of that stuff put in. I still have those clamps on the back. I'm going to leave them on there for a little while, just to make sure that that glue cures and everything is locked into place. And I do need to go through and touch up some paint. Some of these parts need a second coat, and I'm going to do that. But in the meantime, let's get our horns and stuff installed. Alright fellas, I got the interior completed. I went ahead and did all this stuff without the camera rolling. For whatever reason, I just never turned the camera on. I do that a lot. If you've watched any of my videos, you know this. But here's the interior completed. The engine is in. All the underhood doodads is installed. I have the suspension all completed. Exhaust system installed. And I still have to pull the tape off of the axles yet. I haven't done that yet. The body, let me take that off the stand. The body is done. I still have to do the chrome foil, and up next I am going to do the tires. Now I usually put them on my little impact gun here, and I have a sanding stick, and I'm just going to rough up the tread. Now when you do this, you don't want to stay on there until you turn them into slicks, unless that's exactly what you're trying to do. You just want to do this to where you get an even color, if you will, an even wear across the width of the tire, and to get that center little mold line out of them. So you don't have to do high speed. You just, you know, about that fast. Let's speed it up just a hair. Yeah, I'll just stay right there. That's about all you need to do. As long as it's kind of even across the width of the tread, you're golden. I may have to do this end one a little bit more, but I'm going to have to put it further up as it's bouncing a little too much. That's the only drawback to doing this way. Further out from the tool, the more the tire bounces, and you don't get exactly a good coverage on that last tire. This is a 7/16 deep well socket I have on here, so in case you're wondering, that's what you're going to need to use for these particular tires. I find that the 7/16 deep well works well for most of the tires. You know, I do have a couple others over here that I have set aside just for different size tires, but I'm happy with this one. So let's get this last little bit taken care of here. There we go. And that's it. Now let's get on to putting these wheels and tires on. I do believe I'm going to put the red lines out. And once I get these wheels and tires put together, it's on to the bare metal foil. Now, hopefully that won't take too long for this car. There's not a whole bunch on it, just around the windows. There is a chrome strip that goes across the bottom of the car, and that's provided on the chrome tree, and that's about it. So let's get these tires fixed up and we'll be all set to go. Welcome back to the final on this 1966 Ford Fairlane 427 by AMT. Well guys, this one was going together so well that something just had to mess up. So let me tell you about some of the things that I discovered while I was building this. First off, let me say that when everything goes together properly on this kit, it looks every bit like a 1966 Ford Fairlane 500. The interior was a breeze to detail, paint, and assemble, as well as the engine and drivetrain. All of the suspension practically fell right into place with hardly any effort. This kit has the correct stance and body proportions, and it really does look great when completed. But there's a dark side to this AMT kit. You don't notice it at first. It kind of creeps up on you, you know, kind of like a snake. Then it jumps up and tries to bite you. Just kidding here. But mine did have a couple of flaws. If you build this as the direction sheet shows, the final assembly is where the flaws really show up. In the final stages of putting the body on the chassis, I discovered that the grill doesn't quite fit until you push back on it. Well, you got to push it into place. You push it up against the fenders. Everything's lined up beautifully. But there's something that's quite not right. When you force that grill back into position, everything else goes out of alignment. The chassis gets pushed back. Well, in step 2G, and I'm going to show you that here. In step 2G, see on that firewall, part number 18 right here, the two horns mount on those two little holes on that radiator support wall. They fit beautifully there, except on the final assembly. When you try to push that grill up into place here, well, there's no room for those horns between that grill and the radiator support wall. So when you push this back, it comes in contact with the horns and pushes everything else back. It's kind of reminiscent of the AMT's 69 Torino Cobra. Yeah, you get that same effect. The wheels don't line up in the wheel wells. Matter of fact, the back side of each wheel is hitting the body. In order to get that centered into the wheel well, you have to remove the horns. There's no other way around it. I tried, trimming and this kind of stuff. There's just not enough room in there for the horns and to get everything to fit right. So I had to remove the horns. That was the first thing. Now I also had problems with the hood, and the hood, well, when I had it taped in place while I was painting it, everything was flat and flush and it looked good. But once final assembly time came along, well, the firewall, because of all of the other things, the firewall wasn't in the right spot. When I got the horns out of the way and got the grill put on, trying to line up everything, well, I noticed that there's a little warp going on in there. I don't know if it's the chassis, I don't know if it's the body, and I don't know if it maybe could be that I didn't get the firewall set down onto the chassis quite right. Either way, there was a gap right back here in this corner. So I ended up injecting a little bit of glue in there and clamping it. And I left it clamped overnight. Come back, the body's sitting on the chassis the way it should. The hood, if you fiddle with it enough, you can get it down flat and even, but you still have this big gap back here. And because of the chrome trim piece that goes onto the front of the hood, you can't push that hood back any further than I have it. So the hood is a little bit ill-fitting, but it came along. Came time to put the wheels on. The back wheels went on no problems because that's a steel axle. You just push it in place. Now, I've showed you before, and you probably saw earlier in the video here, where those spindles had pieces of Scotch tape on them. I always put Scotch tape on the spindles so I don't put a glob of paint on there while I'm putting primer and my color coats and all that other stuff. It remains bare plastic. I went through and I made sure all the seam lines were cleaned off and everything. Those front wheels fit really, really snug. So if you want a vehicle where the tires aren't rolling, the car is just going to stay static and you don't have to worry about it rolling off the shelf or what have you. Just push the wheels on and have a nice day. If you want this to roll, you're going to have to remove either some material off the spindles, or you're going to have to open the holes up on the back side of the wheels. Either way will allow that to roll, but you have to be careful because this has a little ball fitting at the end of the spindle that locks onto the hub, so you don't want to remove anything off of that. You just want to remove it off of the fatter part of the spindle so it'll give it some room to spin. I don't know, it's tricky. I just left mine pressed in place. The car won't roll. I'm good. Other than that, I went with that blue on blue interior. I went with the pearl white paint, although the camera's not really picking it up real well. You can see it when you're looking at it, but for some reason the camera isn't picking it up. But that is pearl white paint. It actually, to be more truthful, it's gloss white paint with a mica pearl mixture in the clear coat. And then there was, I think I put 3 clear coats on it. I don't remember. But anyway, that's how that turned out. And of course I added a little bit of bare metal foil and it's done. Well, there it is. Another build is done. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. It helps the YouTube algorithm to share my content, which helps my channel grow. If you have any questions, comments, anything, please write those down in the comment section below, and I'll be happy to respond as soon as possible. Be sure to follow me on Facebook, or you can drop me a line at scaleautoguy@gmail.com. If you want more videos like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you'll be notified when I post new videos. Thanks for watching Scale Auto Guy's Workbench, and I'll see you on the next build.